Greetings, everyone. Happy New Year. Just to make it obvious, after consultation, we decided to schedule tonight's meeting as all virtual due to the treacherous weather conditions, so this does not count against your individual quota of virtual attendances. Since we have a quorum, I will call this first meeting of the Tech Commission in 2026 to order. Are there any, here comes Gary, are there any public comments at this time?
I don't believe we had any submissions.
I'm sorry?
Go ahead, Alex. I was just going to say we didn't have any official submissions for public comment, but welcome. Good to see you again, Alex.
Thank you. And yes, I have nothing to add as well.
Okay. Well, it is time to consider adopting the minutes.
Hey, Mike, just a point of order. We all need to say where we are attending from for the record.
Oh, we have to do that for an all virtual meeting?
Yeah, anytime someone's a virtual participant. They
Okay, well, I am at home in Arlington. John?
John Burke, attending from home in Arlington, Virginia.
Jim Smith in Arlington, Virginia.
David
at home in Arlington, Virginia.
Might be people wrapping up in Scottsdale, Arizona. Sorry.
Scottsdale, all right.
Has anyone else not stated their location?
Jackie Snelling in Arlington, Virginia.
Chris DeMiro.
Arlington, Virginia.
All right. Gary Thayer, Arlington, Virginia, at home.
Okay, got Prescott, got Gary. I think we have Laura and Chris, if I'm counting right.
Chris.
Yep, Laura Gross in Arlington, Virginia.
Yes, and Chris DeMiro, I'm in Arlington, Virginia as well. Thanks.
Perfect. Well, we can move on now to the adoption of the minutes, which are sent to members. Are there any comments on the minutes for the December 2025 meeting? Not seeing anyone, would someone care to offer a motion to adopt them?
I'll move that we adopt the minutes.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor, raise your hand.
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstaining? The minutes are formally adopted. So now it comes to my first chair's update. And there a changing of the guard. I have been moved to chair and Prescott is vice chair. And I want to take this opportunity to for his leadership the past few years. He's done a splendid job and I will try to live up to his example. So here, John. We have a new liaison. Takis is now our liaison. And he has arranged for myself and Prescott to meet with him virtually 1 week before each of our meetings. So we met once with John while I was still vice chair last week, and toward the end of February, Prescott will join me with Takis, and that's his keeping touch with what we are doing. All right. With that way, it is time for our esteemed guest, the county auditor, Wayne Scott, who the information technology architecture governance audit that he and his staff have performed. Wayne, welcome. It is all yours.
Thank you, Michael, and thank you, John, also for the invite to this. And it's a pleasure to be here tonight to meet with you all and to talk through the audit that was performed and working with Holly and her team. Before I do that, I thought I would just take a few minutes to give a little bit of an introduction as to who I am and a little bit about my background, and talk about a little bit about my tenure of what I'm bringing to the table as an auditor. So Wayne Scott, actually, I've been living here in Arlington for many years, been living in the county since '97, and I've been working in the county and working in the county since '89. So I loved it so much working here. I decided to, I was working in private industry at the time, working in Crystal City. I decided to go ahead and move into the county. So it's such a great place. So definitely a pleasure to be here with everyone tonight. Also, in terms of just a little bit about my background, so I know this is sad to say, but I was born an auditor. So I started my audit career when I was 5. I reported to the chief audit executive of the household, my mother. So I was the tattletale of the house. So as I say, I started my career at 5. But anyway, I did, upon graduating from college, started right into the audit profession. Been in the audit profession really since college. I did a little bit of time spending in working in the financial area of accounting, and that just didn't do it for me. So I found myself going back into the audit profession. So I've been in the audit profession for many, many years. Most of the time it's been split between, I spent a large chunk of my audit career in the commercial aviation industry, working for a commercial airline. One of the airlines was headquartered here in Arlington, U.S. Airways. So spent a number of years with U.S. Airways, also some time over at JetBlue. And outside of that, I've also a big chunk of my career, and I see Jonathan Adelstein is here in the meeting. When I saw that he was on the commission within ITAC, my eyebrows went up because actually I rose kind of across there, Jonathan. I was with the Universal Service Administrative Company for nearly 18 years. I was the head of their audit function, performing audits of the Universal Service Fund program. Some of you may know that from the E-rate program, high costs, the low income program, rural healthcare. So I was responsible for leading audits, working directly with the Federal Communications Commission. Also worked with the Federal Communications Commission Office of Inspector General and worked jointly with them in performing audits. And Jonathan, I did work while I was at Universal Service, I was there with Lisa Zana. I believe she was your chief legal advisor when you were there, serving as a commissioner for the Federal Communications Commission. So Lisa Zana came over and she was our CEO. So I worked closely with Lisa and really enjoyed working with her. So when I saw the name, I was like, wow, Jonathan is on ITAC. So there's someone that knows something here about Universal Service. So I joined the county about a little bit over a year and a half ago. Came into the county, and I soon after getting here and getting my feet wet, Mark Schwartz got me to I was able to get introduced to his full team, his front line, and started getting to build relationships with the team, and started into performing a number of audits. Finished my first audit work plan. That audit work plan concluded in this past June of 25. So now into the next audit work plan, which this audit was part of the next audit work plan, which we'll talk about here in a few minutes on the IT governance enterprise infrastructure. So with that, I guess we can go ahead. Tracy, I believe you have the slide deck. If you don't mind, open it up. I can talk through this particular audit, and as we go through this, I mean, you don't have to necessarily wait for me to get to the end. I'm happy to take questions throughout. So if there's something that you want to know a little bit more about, or I can dig a little bit deeper into, I'm happy to go to that. So if you could proceed to the next slide, please. So with the IT architecture governance process, so the audit objective was really to take a look at the strategy for the strategy that we're using here within the county for reviewing existing and future technology services. And this is something that we saw that was very important, because there's got to be coordination and some discussion among the not only with DTS, and I'm going to talk about a little bit the complexity that this audit brought, because we have a very decentralized IT environment. So it was, taking a look, because we're very decentralized, it was, one of this first objective here was to take a look at our strategy for, how do we take a look at our technology needs, not only for, within the enterprise facing tools and systems that we have, but just also looking across in other departments. Also determining whether that the established controls and governance mechanisms that we have in place are operating effectively, efficiently, more so to mitigate risk of redundancy, and also that we have a structure that will provide alignment with our overall IT strategy and objectives. So again, this was, one of the things that in working with Holly and her team was to really get an understanding for how do we do that. And when I talk about the scope here, I can talk a little bit more about that as well. And then finally, taking a look at our, evaluating our strategy for decommissioning some of the, whether it's outdated or underutilized IT assets, and making sure that when we're doing that, that it's both, from a, timely and cost effective manner. Now, the scope of the audit was really, I know you see 5 bullets here, but it was really broken into what I want to say is kind of 2 work streams. One was more of a governance focus work stream. The other work stream was more about, asset management. And one was a little bit, the asset management piece that was a little bit more tactical and looking at, kind of, processes, whether it's, on the procurement side, how do we inventory for equipment, that was on the asset management. But more importantly, let me shift over to the governance side first. So the governance side was really around, what are some of the governance practices that we have? So how do we have a holistic view and a holistic approach to managing and discussing how do we, when it's acquiring or retiring equipment or forecasting out equipment. So like, what does that process look like in terms of, making sure that there's a heavy level of coordination across the county? And as I said, with this, the complexity of this particular audit is that, you have the DTS area, which is responsible for the enterprise facing things like, whether it's Prism Plus or it's, Microsoft Outlook, some of those, DTS is responsible there, but how do we ensure that there is some level of coordination around the county with all the other various departments to making sure that, there's some process for looking at technology needs and what we have, so that we are not facing some duplicate type of systems across the county. So it's so there was quite a bit of time taking a look at that governance structure that was in place. What also played heavily important, played a heavy importance into that was the county's digital strategy and how that digital strategy, so that's that 3rd bullet there. So alignment of our technology decisions with our digital strategy. Also, under this governance piece, I did meet with John Burke, interviewed and had an interview and a discussion with him about, kind of the role of this committee and how they play into looking at technology needs. I see, I did watch a few of your meetings, definitely like around when we're getting around into the budgeting planning cycle and taking a look at the discussions. And there was some overlap there from what I could see from the letters that were sent into the county board, talking about some of the technology needs and looking forward and how, so what I wanted to make sure how that was aligned with our digital strategy. So that was more on the governance side. On the asset management piece, that particular work stream. So that was, as I said, that was a little bit more tactical, taking a look at the relative, processes and controls. So to the extent when a department is purchasing or putting in a requisition for IT systems, how do they, making sure that that those departments do coordinate and loop DTS into these decisions. So more or less that they can get, one, to make sure that we're not duplicating systems, number one. Also taking a look at like making sure that when it's time to bring something on board that we're thinking about various security risk, thinking about other things that could impact the county. So taking a look at from that side. So there was some testing there of procurements that were done, selected a sample of procurements and seeing how DTS played a role in those acquisitions. And then also the big piece of this, in which we'll talk about, is this just when we talk about a software application inventory management, how we go about maintaining a listing or having a way to ensure that we have a visible, there's visibility of inventory that we have, with all of this equipment that we're, or software and technology, not equipment. I misspoke there. Didn't do anything looking at equipment. This was more on application systems, kind of that software side, and taking a look at that acquisition process. So I've said a lot here. I'm going to pause a little bit, not only to get a sip of water, but also to see if there are any questions that I may need to answer. If not, I will proceed on. So one of the things that, if you could move to the, Jackie?
You're muted, Jackie.
Yeah, sorry. When you talk about software application, did it also include software integration across the enterprise?
So that was, part of it is of seeing how do we integrate that software into our platform. So making sure that something, because, when you're bringing on a piece of software, the one thing that I was looking for was that making sure that when our IT security area is taking a look at this, is making sure that we're not bringing on a piece of software that would create vulnerabilities. So that was the main thing. I wasn't there to say, well, this software is bringing on vulnerabilities. It was to make sure that IT, the team over the cybersecurity area was aware and participated in that, to making sure that whatever we were bringing on would fit well into our IT environment.
So not integration across systems for interoperability.
Right. I mean, the focus where I was looking for is not was focused around the security.
Yes. Okay, I got it.
But not around the operations, around like, how can we better leverage, like, did we consider, I think where you're going, Jackie, is like, did this piece of equipment, like, could we leverage it in other ways?
Well, no, it was really more the operational integration of IT across systems to be able to integrate data from one department and another, and have interoperability of our operations, which has been one of the strategic areas we've looked at here. So.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, that wasn't within the scope.
All right. Thank you.
Sure. So with this particular audit, before I get into the conclusion, so as I went through the process and, interviewing individuals and getting kind of get a lay of the land of the control environment. I mean, I gotta say, what I was most impressed about was the level of coordination that exists around the county. There is on that governance structure, because that governance structure plays a very important role. It's very important even in this day and time when we're, because we're decentralized. I've worked in, every place where I've been before. nearly all of the IT decisions existed within the IT department. But because we have it decentralized, there was a greater emphasis on making sure that we have that, that level of coordination across the county, which was very, it was excellent, with the level of, it's Holly, correct me if I'm wrong, is it G10 or G12? But I know it begins with a G.
G10.
The G10. So yeah, so I spent time taking a look at the G10 and various kind of their roles and objectives, taking a look at their meeting agendas, their meeting minutes, taking a look what they're talking about, and the level of coordination across the county. So that was a big check mark that I could give to say this is an area from a governance side that was working well. I'll actually, at the end of this, I will just have the report brought up on screen and just kind of walk you through so you can see a little bit more in a granular detail of like how the report is laid out. And there's a lot of things in there that were done. So when you take a look at within our methodology section of the audit report, you can see a little bit more of at a granular level of the things that were done. Even if it's not in the report as a finding, you can make the connection. Oh, okay, then if there were no findings or anything there was no exception. So that means that those test steps worked, very well. So just the overall conclusion of the audit is that the county does have an established, what I was just talking about here is an established framework for reviewing existing technology and future technology needs and services. So that, as I was talking about, that governance structure was there, that the strategy is effective in identifying those opportunities and aligning technology decisions across, the various department needs. So again, that was that very technology focused piece. The other piece, now when we get into the section around, the kind of the procurement and the level of coordination and testing, those things are fine. But one area that we have yet to achieve was to have this a complete listing of our countywide software, just kind of everything that we have. We do have, they did some of that some years ago, and it got a little bit outdated. But what we need is to have, kind of a this approach for maintaining this inventory going forward. And there's a number, and it's just not having an Excel spreadsheet just listing everything out. It's really having a dynamic way of looking across, for any department within the county to be able to see this list. One, so when if they're about to procure for something, they can go in and check to say, well, do we already have this? And if so, where is it and who has it? But it's also to really help us for when some application or software is going to be at end of life, so tracking when it is going to be at end of life, or when the software product is going to, that it's going to expire somehow. But being able to foreshadow that and forecast for that, not only for budgeting purposes, but just really for staff planning purposes, to know what we have coming down the road, and also making sure that we don't have everything that's going to retire or exit out at the same time. So making sure that things are just kind of staggered in terms of for helping us better manage the inventory. In fact, can we jump into the next section, the next slide, please? I think that goes into a little bit more of the finding, recommendation, and management agreed action here. So again, this was about the finding that existed here was not having a centralized, comprehensive listing of inventory, software assets, and applications, cloud providers, SaaS providers. Kind of having that list. And of course, the recommendation is to get to that point. And as I was saying, it's just not about having like an Excel listing of all of these things, but making sure that we have in which we do have an existing tool that could really help here. So we could leverage using a tool that we currently have in place, but having this tool in place where we could, again, other departments can see it, but I always just kind of think about it like this, and because I know, there's this thing now where you have, organizations using a lot of cloud providers, SaaS providers, across their enterprise. But it's also within this list and making it a little bit more dynamic is knowing where things are connected, knowing where things like who's using what, so that one, it's not bringing up avoiding, we got to avoid that shadow IT risk. So making sure that we have that in place by having this listing. But when I say something is connected, so that when you do have, such as you could have if something were to go wrong with a particular cloud provider, knowing how it's connected into our, our environment, we will then know, okay, if we're having a problem with this particular cloud provider, this is everything that's connected to them. These are the services. So that will help us to be able to provide a little bit better services to not only the internal clients within the county, but our residents if they're also relying on that piece of technology. So that inventory serves a number of things. Just for a whole host of reasons. So this is a really a good thing to have. And again, it's not to say that we didn't have it. It's just that, we have it for the DTS systems. We had it for some of the departments, but again, it got a little bit outdated and we need to bring it up to speed. So, in speaking to Holly and her team about this, there was an agreement with the finding and recommendation around this about having this centralized software asset management framework put into place. Also just having this, to have this, this tool that we could, have integrated into our governance processes and to also to measure like how we're maturing with, kind of overall, whether it's COVID or some other model for, a maturity model framework, but this will also help us get to that point. But I will say, just throughout the audit, auditors, we're an odd breed, at times, and working with Holly and her team, I saw a team there that was really committed to excellent performance, excellent, finding opportunities to say, hey, as we were discussing this particular item, we were just really thinking about, discussing like how we could better make use of the tool and what else we could do with it. I mean, some of the things I talked about, there were their ideas of why, we need to have this centralized inventory. So Holly, I applaud you and your team in making it for a very smooth audit experience throughout. So I can actually, before I turn it over to Holly, because there has been some management agreed actions that she's proceeded on, her and her team has proceeded on, that maybe you want to talk about. But before I turn it over to Holly, I'm happy to take any questions on the audit.
Well, let's hear from Holly, and then our normal procedure, Wayne, is to go around the room, virtually in this case, and ask for comments and questions from every member of the commission.
Okay.
So if there's information to add, this would be a good time for you and or Holly to add it.
Great. If it's okay, then I'll go ahead. Okay, cool. So I just want to first say thank you to the audit committee's review and process. The whole throughout it, and Wayne alluded to this too, kind of the word collaboration is something that keeps coming to mind. The way we worked through it, and he was coming to us with pieces of the audit. We were kind of helping to make sure we understood what was being asked and expected, gave us a better way of being able to make sure we were responding accurately with the right processes, controls, and policies, and making sure they understood what we were doing. As he said, I think the audit findings and recommendations, I think I want to stress, we agree with the importance of the governance and the continuous improvement. And I think it also recognizes that we do have a governance structure in place, led by our department, that gives a great foundation for strategic alignment, risk management, and performance accountability. From a process perspective, I can assure you, as Wayne was saying, we are reviewing requests that come before DTS, right? The team does keep on top of mind the goals set forth in the digital strategy, the same ones that are on the website, in our internal SharePoint site, kind of are guiding our decision making. And so I think it also kind of keeping in mind, our role of supporting and sustaining a trusted technology foundation, and also thinking about innovation in a customer-centric era. Like those things are always present in mind for us. As we go through our process, it is a decentralized process, as Wayne was alluded to, right? There are needs and expertise of process steps that departments have that we have to collaborate with them. So we work very closely with both the departments as well as procurement in making sure, hey, things that are coming through, that we're seeing things that are coming through, and we're engaging with the different partners, both before they're doing it, while they're doing it, and then afterwards while it's being implemented in many cases. And so we have many different avenues of how we have that kind of front end engagement. Wayne had mentioned the G10. That is a group of active managers and individuals who play a role in technology across the departments that meet on a regular basis. And it's a sounding board for us to kind of share what's happening and what's going on and what we're thinking. It's also an opportunity for them to bring things to us. My deputy and I, Laura Slavin, are having regular executive leadership conversations on I would say, a cadence. It's probably like every 3 to 4 months, checking in. What are they thinking? Where are they going? What are we doing? Making sure that we're hearing those things and kind of keeping aligned with where they're going. And then also there are at the technology coordinator level, making sure we're hearing that information and aligning all of that. Then as the information comes into us, going back to the process piece, we have a process that is in email right now. We are working, and this is what we commit to move it to a tool that we have so that it's automated. They're vast improvement for us in being able to see and find information. There is a step, so that is what we're committing to by the end of fiscal year 26. There are 2 further steps. One is taking that information and making it available for the departments to see, as Wayne was saying, kind of to see that list and to be able to maintain that whole list. We, as he had also referenced, we have a list that we had created a couple of years ago, and we are very focused on what we are defining as our mission critical applications and making sure those are all up to date. But there is a gap of some of the smaller ones that we're not doing. That is a resource need that we have, and that is part of our budget ask. But as Wayne also said, right, there is putting it in a spreadsheet to be able to have people find it. But then there is the future piece that really makes the usefulness and the connectivity of what are those applications that we have purchased, how are they integrated from a systems perspective, not from the operability as you were asking for. That to me is more on a data, but thinking about it when we have change requests, what's impacted, if there is an issue, as Wayne was saying, going back to of the cloud provider, what potentially is impacted. That is a tool, and I want to make a slight adjustment on what you're saying, Wayne. We have a platform now. There is a component of that platform that would allow us to be able to do that we don't have implemented. So we have the potential capabilities of the platform, but it needs to be implemented, and that requires resources. So I just want to make sure I'm clear on that piece. And that is we want to do that. It is budget dependent. With all that said, I do think we are in a good place, between the different departmental reviews, the partnerships that we've got. I feel very confident that we are in a good place, but both supporting both the operational and as well as supporting the community needs. I also want to highlight, we have internally worked to develop a RACI matrix. So that's the responsible accountability, consulted, informed, that kind of helps the different departments and the technology roles and non-technology understand what is it that DTS does to help kind of make that interaction with us more seamless and know when to come and utilize our resources. I am interested in continuing to try to improve. And so we've committed to using a framework to do self audits and a maturity assessment. Where is it an area that we can improve? How do we score ourselves this year? How do we score ourselves next year to kind of make sure that we're continuing to make progress and being able to hone in on where is the best use of resource dollars to make that progress. Just let's wrap it up. I think the audit recommendations are a positive reflection of our current process and mechanisms, and we are confident that the enhancements will even further reduce risk and improve oversight and better support. You can always improve. So that's where we are. And thank you very much for the audit and for the questions.
Thank you, Holly. Wayne, do you have additional remarks?
Yeah. So, Tracy, if you could go to the next slide, please. I believe there's just, I wanted to just walk you through the whole final report. Not every word, I think it's 16 pages total. So we're not here to go through all 16 pages. But if you could click that link, we're going to test and see if my linking capabilities did that work. If not,
let me see if it'll.
If it doesn't, I have it open and I can share my screen.
So I could also send the link.
I've got the link open. I just need to switch screens here.
Oh, okay.
So let me do that. Unless it's easier for you to scroll, Wayne, that's up to you.
Hold on.
I'm happy to do it.
I've got a maintenance issue here. Hold on.
Okay. Let me just bring that up.
Oh, okay. Ooh, that was close. I would have been kicked out of here. I thought I had it open. Okay, so if you could, Tracy, if you could scroll down to the next page. So all of the audit reports that are issued by the Office of County Auditor are listed on the Office of County Auditor website. So the reports are there. You will see all of our audits. So you have a table of contents. You can keep scrolling. I'll tell you when you can stop. We do have an executive summary. So we word this executive summary such that you could really, kind of, you can see the details. I'm sorry, not very high level summary. If you look down to the right side of the page, there's more of description of kind of what was done, why we did it, and then the little bullets off to, or the kind of the text boxes off to the left there just gives you a quick summary of what the paragraph over to the side is about. So the audit report starts off as to why we did this. If you could scroll down, please. Then it gets into what we found. Of course, what we found can be longer on other audits where there are more findings, because we tend to give a very high level summary or description as to what was found. So here, this is a short section because there was one area that we wanted to bring to management's attention, and then what did we recommend. So and then down below is on to a very high level summary of the management response. So the goal here of this particular section of the report is to provide the reader with enough information to understand what the audit was all about, what was recommended, and what is management's corrective action. If you could scroll down to the next section. So the next section then really gives the reader a little bit of helping them with some background information into the process, how it's laid out. There are no discussion of findings, but it's just more of a, an overview of what is in, kind of this particular process. If you could scroll down, please. And you can scroll all the way down to, because again, this is all background information explaining the governance structure. Then we go into the detailed findings. So what we do is we, in this particular audit, most audit reports will look like this. We are working on an audit right now that we're concluding that will have a little bit different look of feel when we get into the finding. But how we like to lay out the finding is that we want to at least to say, well, here's what we were looking for. This was the criteria that we were measuring against. And then the condition statement as to what we observe. And then we provide a cause statement of what we see as what caused the particular condition. And then we get into the effect saying, well, if we don't do this, here's what the impacts, these are what the impacts can be. And then we go into greater detail with the recommendation. So this is much at a granular level than what we just discussed. But what we discussed a few minutes ago in the PowerPoint slide deck is, I mean, at the 60,000 foot level, but this is a bit more granular when we talked about a multi-phase approach to getting us to having this holistic view of the inventory. So there's much more granular information here in the recommendation, and then again a more granular level of management response. And when we provide management the opportunity to provide their written response, well, let me back up. One, on the recommendation is that we try to make sure our recommendations are realistic, they're achievable. There's nothing fun of saying, oh yeah, you need to do blah, 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 when we know it's not going to happen, because of whether it's what I always say, controls aren't free. You got to be realistic and making sure that you're doing something that's going to be able to be done. So, so that was the commitment to Holly. When Shirley is Brothwell, she's the assistant accounting auditor. So this is the first time that the county auditor's office has had two people. So Shirley and I, it's our commitment to make sure that we have realistic recommendations, and we work with management on those, to what we can do. And then here's the response provided by Holly of what her team will do. We do look for to have a level of action, an action plan of when things are expected to be achieved, and kind of what does that roadmap look like. And if you could scroll down, then we get into what we call our OSM, objective, scope, and methodology. Again, we lay out what was the objective, what was in our scope, and then in this methodology section, when you read through the methodology section, like this is going into greater detail of what was done. So if you see something in here like review of the governance practices, so you can see all of the things that were done. If there's no exception, it's not in the report, but you can at least get a feel for, the things that we did throughout the audit. Scroll down, please. And then a little bit about the audit function, our compliance statement. One of the things that we have to do, and it adds to a level of complexity to even our audit process when we say we're performing the audits in accordance with generally accepted government auditing standards. We did that, except for we have not had our peer review yet. That will be coming at a later time. I'll get audited too. So I've been through many audits. So I'm not exempt from getting audited. So when we perform audits consistent with the government auditing standards, Shirley and I will get audited every 3 years, so we look forward to our first one. But they come in to make sure that we do all of the things that we say we're going to do. But yeah, it does add a level of complexity, because we have to start asking. This audit we deemed, we didn't do a fraud risk assessment on this one because we deemed the risk of fraud as low in the area, so we did not have a fraud discussion. Most audits we tend to have those. When it's more financially focused, or audits where there is some opportunity where there could be fraud committed within a particular area or against the county. So most audits generally do have a fraud risk assessment, but that we did not have here. And then, so that is the full report. So when you're looking at our reports, that's kind of the layout of them. Some of them can be quite voluminous, but I think the executive summary will help readers be able to get an idea of what is in the report. So that is the full report and my presentation, and I will turn it back to you, Michael, to lead through with questions.
Thank you, Wayne, and thank you for the presentation and the overview tour of the report. I will start with Prescott, since he is now vice chair. Prescott, do you have any comments or questions for Wayne or for Holly?
Yeah, I have a quick question. So I saw the part about the governance oversight. So is the ideal for every new purchase to have to go through like a board or centralize the purchase process, or did I misunderstand it?
So Wayne, do you mind me to take that one?
Yeah, go ahead. But I'm happy to leverage off of that. Go ahead.
So it does now. There is a process that it goes through now, but it is a process on our side that is driven by email and other communications. We are moving that process into something that is more of a system so that we could track it better. And then be able to have an easier front door for people. That does not take away from the conversations that we have with the different departments and the different, that is not a governance board review and everybody's doing something. That is not the way that we've operated and successfully operated within the county, but it is more of that email process to make sure that we in DTS are reviewing from the cybersecurity, from the data, from, that, how does it connect? Is there any duplicates of other applications? Is there anything that would put it in conflict with some of our cloud direction? So we are all reviewing for our own areas of expertise.
Okay.
You satisfied, Prescott?
Yep, that's good. I appreciate it. Thanks, Holly.
Cool. Chris.
Hey, Wayne, thanks so much for your presentation. I don't have any pressing questions. I just want to say thank you to the work you do. I think auditors, inspector generals, independent boards that are looking at transparency and efficient use of government resources are incredibly important. And I'm glad that somebody like you at the county level is looking out for us. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for that feedback, Chris.
Terrific. Jackie. You're muted, Jackie.
Yeah, takes me a second. I, as usual, I have multiple questions, but they're all very much in the weeds. And I admit I did not have an opportunity to read this report closely before this presentation. I'm assuming it's already posted, correct?
Yes.
And so I probably would have more organized questions after I have a chance to take a good look at it. I am interested, maybe it's a follow-up on it, but to me, the one of the things from a public point of view and from other advisory commissions that we've heard kind of repeatedly over time is the need to look at interoperability from an operational point of view and from a public information point of view, which Holly's very familiar with. And so if that wasn't in the scope here, probably the inventory will help lead to being able to do that as a scope. So I guess what I want to do is keep that in the parking lot for a follow-on type of audit is to go from how does this impact and what kinds of I don't know, economies of scale, but also better sharing of information can we achieve by better coordination of our systems. And so that's a follow-up thing. Then there's on the inventory, this actually was a recommendation, which Holly knows, I don't know, it may be 5 years back. It was quite a while ago. And it was also a recommendation of a separate commission, the Open Data Commission, had a recommendation to do this asset inventory. And so I'm delighted to hear that it's on a spreadsheet at this point as a first step, and that it is on your to-do list, because I think obviously that's a first step. And so for staff, thank you very much for moving on that. And I guess the AI, and that's the other thing that wasn't mentioned here at all, is the use of AI as an additional tool for going across the different systems for data collection. And was that something that you looked at, both in terms of the security issues that you mentioned and in terms of enterprise level connections for all the software?
So that was not.
I may not be saying that properly. It might need my layman's terms will undoubtedly need technological translation.
Yes, but no, we did not get into looking at, any type of AI capabilities or ability to go through and look across systems to gather data or anything like that. We did not get into that. I share your thoughts around, kind of looking across systems and like how are we, leveraging, different systems to do the jobs more efficiently and effectively. That's something that, Shirley and I will be, come the, whoa, I can't believe I'm about to say this, but March, April will be here before we know it. That March, April timeframe will begin starting our planning process for our 27 audit cycle. And maybe that's something that we can, have more conversations about as we're going around, getting input for building out that future plan. And then even to the extent of the use of AI to assist.
Which they are doing, but it really is the looking at it from the public information customer as well as from the manager, the perspective of the client who is the internal manager in each of the departments in terms of their ability to access information from other departments and use it effectively.
No, and I tell you because we're finishing up an audit of an area, and the one thing I can see in this county, we have a lot of data available, but it's what is I think is the challenge is how do people get to it, and then how do you know you got the right information? I mean, so I think there could be some opportunity there.
Well, I think it was Holly, but if I'm misquoting you, Holly, please correct me. In talking about AI, one of the things that one of the staff said was it's a process of convincing people to show us their spreadsheets. And so if you're doing an inventory of software and in order to collect information, you're twisting people's arms for spreadsheets, there's a gap there that needs to be looked at.
It was not me that said it, but I've been smiling as you've been talking because that priority of I'm vastly oversimplifying, but get the data, get the data so that we can then utilize it is something that we have been working on, messaging, collaborating. This is where some of the ELT conversations I was talking about, hearing from them so that we're making sure that we're focusing on the right space. I think we're heading in that direction. We have actually, let me rephrase that. We have already done quite a bit. I think there's more for us to do, and I'm excited to keep moving in that direction because to me, that AI piece that you're talking about, AI is only as good as the data and the information that you have. So we need to make sure that we've got it, that it's accurate, and that it is available in a safe way.
Thank you. Yes, and I too want to thank. We're very grateful and highly support the board in continuing this audit function. And I'm delighted you have two people in your office now. These audits that you're doing are just critical to accountability, but also to improving the enterprise. Thank you.
Thank you.
David, any questions or comments?
No immediate questions, but I will echo some other comments and express gratitude for this presentation and the report that it's based on. As a new commissioner, having something like this in front of me as one of the first substantial topics of conversation is very helpful. And so appreciative for the thoroughness and the scope of the work that was done. So thank you very much.
Terrific.
Thank you.
Gary?
Yes, thank you, Wayne. I appreciate the presentation very much. Echoing the earlier comments, I think the function that you provide with the audits is indispensable. It's always needed. It increases the confidence in the organization. And I want to thank you for the presentation this evening. It was very informative and very well done. I have no other comments, but thank you again so much. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. Welcome very much.
Frank?
Thank you. Let me join everyone else in thanking you for the presentation. The presentation is very consistent with a lot of discussions and recommendations we've made over the years. One area that I didn't hear from you on was any relationship between APS in IT technology construction. This is something that we've discussed over the years. We used to have an APS liaison on our commission. And in the past, we get presentations from Raj at APS, and I know there's been a dialogue going on between DTS and Raj over on the APS side. Just want to know if any consideration was given and whether it should be to that relationship. And by the way, I'm a retired communications attorney who practiced with a private firm now based in Arlington for 35 years. So.
Okay. So no, we did not get into anything with APS. I mean, it's because that is really independent of the board. It's difficult for us to do any part of our audit work involving APS. However, I will say that myself and within our Department of Management and Finance, there's an internal audit team there. And with the APS auditor, so the DMF internal auditors have a great relationship with APS and got me connected. Shirley and I both connected with the APS auditor, Alice Blount. So we actually have put together a quarterly forum with all three teams. We get together and we coordinate and we talk about what we're auditing, what we're seeing, with hopes to get insights or give ideas to audit. So we have spoken with the APS auditor on this. So can't say what she's going to do with it or if she will plan to do something with it. But I think this is kind of one of our, I think it's a good first step in having, this level of audit coordination around the county, since we're unable to go audit over there and she can't come audit on our side, but to have that coordination. But I'll certainly bring it up again in our next quarterly auditor forum.
Thank you.
Sure.
Laura?
No questions. Thanks, Mike.
Okay. Biran, I'm sorry.
No worries. Thank you for the presentation. It was really thorough and well done. I don't have any questions at this time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Jonathan Edelstein?
Yeah, good to see you, Wayne. Really wonderful. And, Lisa Zana had her retirement party a week ago.
I heard.
I made it out to that one.
Oh, good. Good.
It was really nice to see her and the team.
Yeah.
It's great to have you on board and to have you present to us. Really appreciate your comments, all the work that went into this. It really gives us a lot to chew on there. So
Sure.
Again, just nice to see you and thanks for all the work on this. I look forward to working with you.
Yep. Sure. Thank you.
Jim?
I also don't have any question. You answered them all. Thanks very much. It was a terrific presentation. I look forward to seeing more of you in the future.
You heard that, Holly. I'm coming back.
John?
Love to have you.
Yeah, I think on that note, Wayne, Mike, there's two people in the county auditor's office. You got a lot of stuff to look at. How frequently do you think you will be able to focus on the IT function? Because as you rightly pointed out, I think this is just kind of scratching the surface of some of the questions that we might want to look at. And you can only do so much in any given year. That's for you, Wayne. And then for Holly, I'm assuming that we will see in your budget request, you mentioned earlier, a specific request for resources to address these recommendations that we could support.
So, John, in terms of how frequent, I mean, it's kind of hard to say. We'll have to see what's on the kind of on our docket for a coming year, and we go through and do our audit planning. I will say, technology tends to be an area of of interest to perform some level of audits. So, I mean, because there's always something, whether it's cybersecurity, change management, which is very important to you. I mean, how many times you turn on the news and you find some other system is down and it impacted every, so many individuals. So like change management is always a hot topic. But I will say, one of the things in coordinating with our partners over in DMF Internal Audit, they do a number of audits as well. I would encourage you all to go to the DMF Internal Audit side and you can see some of their completed audits. They get into a little bit more. I know they're doing access controls. They're doing, they've done some other contract management type audits related to IT. So there's a little bit more cover there than just me.
Are those publicly accessible?
Yes, if you go to with Department of Management and Finance and hyphen internal audit, you'll be able to see their audit plan. You'll see their audits that they have underway. I know they hit on IT a couple of times, more around in the access control area, taking a look at access, not only just who has access, but also their permissions and who has the, kind of the higher level elevated account access and looking at the controls around those. So their audits tend to be a little bit more on the, I want to say transactional type general controls type work, but you will see more air cover on that side. So going forward, it's hard to say, but I do, I don't want to say, oh yeah, Holly won't see us again for a while, but there's a high likelihood that we'll be back, taking a look at other areas. But so maybe if we're visiting at least once every 2 to 3 years, I think that would make sense in some form or fashion. But again, coordinating with DMF because, when auditors come in, I mean, we can be all over the place and we can consume a lot of time. So we don't like, I mean, we know everybody has their day job, so we want to be mindful. So that's one of the things that, at least with DMF internal audit and Shirley and I will talk about with them is making sure that we're not, overstepping into one area. Because if here Wayne and Shirley comes and then here comes Moon and Ken and then, then I'm sure there's other regulators that you could have coming in. So yeah, so we just want to be mindful of that.
Sure. Follow up on that is how does your audit plan get prioritized? Who's in charge of that? And is there an opportunity for us to provide input?
So this coming year is going to be, we're going to change it a little bit. We want to solicit more input from various community organization. I mean, like an organization such as a commission such as this. Last year it was more internal focus, looking at talking with the audit committee, talking with the county board, talking with Mark Schwartz and his frontline team, and again in our audit committee. But I think this time we want to go down a little bit deeper and to talk to to the extent that we can get some resident input, input from various other commissions around the county. I think that would be worthwhile. CivFed. I mean, there are some things that we want to do. We, one of the things that we just started at the audit committee level is that we just put in a public comment area, and we're going to have public comment where people can sign up and even provide suggestions. So I think we want to get a little bit more dynamic. We definitely want to get more dynamic and get more input from others with regards to audit opportunity. I mean, I'm a resident of this county, so there are times when I'm like, as a resident, I'm like, why are we doing this? So sometimes maybe it's not a good idea that you have the county auditor living here, because surrounding down the pike, I see something. I was like, I wonder how we audit can we audit that? So, because the wheels, it never turns off in my head. It never turns off. So, but in terms of prioritizing, I know you've asked that question. I mean, that is really like Shirley and I will sit there, like when we put the 26 plan together, we sat there and I mean, we had a number of audits and we listed and we sat there between both of, I'm glad that she's on the team, with me and because she's, an experienced GAO person. She spent time at USAID, so she's heavily experienced in the audit world. So But yeah, it's really down to her and I, and we will solicit input from the board. I mean, we work at the pleasure of the board, so we have to see, kind of what is on their top of mind. Like when we go in, we'll say, these are the things that we're seeing. What do you think? And what are some of the priorities you would like to see done? So the board does play an instrumental role. Like we're finishing up an audit of community benefit, and that was an area that the board was heavily wanting us to get into, was to taking a look at community development. I mean, community benefits with private development around the county. So yeah, so we'll solicit and see what the board thinks. But ultimately, that's who we're serving for, is the county board, who's then working for the residents. So if the residents are speaking up to the board, then we take it.
Yeah. I wouldn't recommend asking us how frequently you should look at IT, because we'd probably say all the time. But when you choose to look at IT, and I'm sure this goes for the other commissions as well, we would be a source of insight for what might be useful and valuable. So
okay, yep. So Mike, I'll maybe reaching out to you.
And then Holly, the budget question.
Yeah. So I just wanted, because I want to be very clear about this too, that I am interested in looking for funding to move forward. I will also tell you there are other priorities that I have within my department above this, because of, as Wayne had said, we have really good structures in place to help us. Would I like to do this? Absolutely. Would it be good for us? Absolutely. That is kind of why I want to look at the, the maturity model and kind of keep us moving forward to help kind of support that. But I also want to make sure you're aware there are other things that we also need. So am I interested?
Yeah.
Yes. And let's leave it at that.
Okay.
Is there anyone I neglected to give a chance to ask a question who's a member of the commission? I know we have some pending commissioners and some observers as well, but I'm just looking for questions from commissioners. No? Well, then that leaves it to me, and I have to say, after hearing John and Wayne and Holly just now, I have a little confusion or hesitation, because I was going to see whether or not you wanted us to endorse the report's recommendation for funding for inventory, and I guess Holly's answer is yes, but not top priority.
From my perspective, but
From your
this
perspective.
is where.
Yeah. Well, I guess that's a discussion, and whether we should send a letter of endorsement the way we have recently with something from Fuse. But we can discuss that among ourselves at another opportunity. Thank you, Wayne, very, very much. And you're welcome to stay around for the last 15 minutes or enjoy the rest of your evening. We do not have a legislative update this month. Frank has promised us he will return in February, but the next item on the agenda is a DTS update from Holly and Tracy, beyond what we've been talking about, if you have something you would like to bring up for our consideration.
Nothing significant, but just we are going into that budget process, and we will have our budget meeting with the board March 5th. So just put that in the
March 5th.
And we are going to be doing operating and capital together.
Okay. Is that a deadline for every part of the county government, or just DTS? March 5th.
We're scheduled out throughout March. We're one of the first ones, I believe. I should know that off the top of my head, but I don't. I feel like we're at the beginning.
Okay. Thank you. Is there anything for the good of the order that anyone would like to bring up?
I have a question for Holly following
Sure.
her review. And that is, we have annually, so you will probably remember this, asked if we could get a view of the budget that shows the IT budget items broken out separately. So not just DTS, but DTS and all of the software purchases and contract support that is under each other department, so that in our review of budget priorities, we can be looking at a holistic view rather than um, uh, trying to look at it in a decentralized view. Is it, I continue to think, and this is a software question for budget, but I continue to think this would be something that with our new system, we should be able to have a code for everything that's IT related and be able to simply pull out that cross section of the budget that is IT related. Is that something that you think we'll be able to get this year?
I can't promise that, but I think there are absolutely codes and identifiers for IT, but we also need to be aware, I mean, the way that IT is in everything now, right? And so there are going to be things that are not looking like IT, but can be, right? And but how much is that? And where is that gray area? And is it a big enough percentage that it makes a difference, or can I get a sense of where things are?
Well, it would be good to know just that. Is
Yeah.
it a big enough percentage?
Yeah.
Right now, we don't even know the answer to that.
Yeah, I guess the gray, I don't know how you'd know that percentage, right? I'm thinking of, hey, like I can't think of an example right now, but I want to buy something. It doesn't look like it's got IT in it, but it actually does. And that has something that we need to be aware of. That's something that we have conversations about. We know of. How does that represent in a code? That's a little bit harder.
Well, they have the ability to do subsidiary codes, and
Yeah.
you can have a main code and then a related code or something like that, which then would allow you to look at anything that's possibly related without automatically putting it into the same bucket as the primary things. But it just seemed to me that this was the year where, with our new budget system, it might be something our system was capable of doing. Well, I would definitely like to make that request in advance of so that we can look at, in talking with you, DTS, but so that we, as the IT Advisory Commission, can look across the whole system with our recommendations, not just at money that is DTS managed.
I will share that. And I understand.
Thank you.
I will share it too, to the extent I can. I think it's a very important and significant and worthwhile request. Tracy, do you have anything?
No, only that we had tentatively planned that the February meeting might be virtual, suspecting that we might have bad weather. That was before this most recent storm hit us. I think we still may be okay for that virtual meeting, but I will confirm that and get back with you, Mike, to make sure that we are on the same page with whether that needs to be hybrid or virtual.
Okay.
But that's all from me.
Okay, great. Anything for the good of the order? Well, I will simply add that I'm going to be working on topics and guest speakers for our schedule in the coming months. Next month and March, I think we will be focused on the budget, but we have some perennial issues that I think some good guest speakers can add perspective on, and we can have more interesting discussions the way we did tonight. There being nothing else on the agenda, I will entertain a motion to adjourn. Well, y'all just want to sit around?
I move to adjourn.
Thank you, Prescott. Second?
Second.
Thank you, Jackie. All those in favor of adjourning, please say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, any opposed? Well, I made it through my inaugural session. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thank you,
all.
guys.
Thank you,
Have a
Mr.
good night.
Chair.
Good night.
Thanks,
Thank you
everybody. Have a
all.
good night.
Stay safe.
Thanks all.